Good morning, First Church. Let me first say that although my wife and I had the best of intentions to be there with you today to speak to you about the importance of Memorial Day, a derailed freight train near Chicago caused us to miss our connecting train to Pittsburgh, which means we will not be home till this afternoon. Our train, the Southwest Chief, was delayed over 4 hours on Friday due to the derailment on Thursday. As our train slowly entered the derailment area, we saw an overwhelming amount of damage to the rails as well as the railroad cars. We did not hear of any injuries and saw a sheared off piece of track puncturing a boxcar. Our train conductor announced, "If you look out the left side of our train, you can see the derailment, and as bad as things look, at least no one died." Enter a God moment. The train wreck did not cause me to go into a train wreck in my mind about delivering this speech to you today. Rather, it brought back memories of my military service and the many times the Army would change the mission and the many times I and my fellow soldiers would have to adapt to the change to accomplish the mission. I am sure you have experienced the same in your own personal life. That's why you are seeing me in my first YouTube video. I am just as determined to complete this mission as those railroad workers are to fix the tracks and get things back to normal on their railroad. As the Bible tells us, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. This verse speaks to me about adapting to the situation, find the plan B, make it happen, and accomplish the mission, just like our military does every day. This video is Plan B, proving there is no problem that cannot be overcome without God's help and technology. Hear now these words of honor and tribute to our nation's fallen as presented by the American Legion. They still speak to us. If you listen quietly, you can hear them. You remember their voices from conversations you've had before they gave their last measure of devotion to this nation. And even if you are not a Gold Star family member, a battle buddy, friend, or relative of a fallen hero, all you have to do is look around and you will see their legacy. It is us, Americans gathered in a free society, unified with the common purpose of honoring uncommon bravery. We are their legacy. Regardless of the place or the war fought, the purity of their sacrifice is without question. Young men and women lost their lives in order to make the freedom of others possible. More than 1 million U.S. heroes had their lives cut short while fighting in wars since the American Revolution. Time only permits to tell just a few of their remarkable stories today, but they are representative of many. A century ago, America was engaged in the war to end all wars, World War I. It was there that a brash aviator from Arizona exasperated many of his superior officers. The 21-year-old pilot claimed a remarkable 18 aerial victories over German pilots in just 18 days. Frank Luke's missions usually involved busting observation balloons, which the Germans used to sight artillery. On September 29, 1918, Second Lieutenant Luke shot down 3 balloons as he was being relentlessly pursued by 8 enemy aircraft. Under heavy fire, his own plane went down near the town of Mervaux, France. Surrounded by the enemy on the ground, he drew his automatic pistol and defended himself gallantly until he fell dead from a wound in the chest. Frank Luke was the first pilot to receive the Medal of Honor. Fast forward 50 years to another continent with yet another determined group of young American heroes. Sharon Lane was committed to caring for these heroes and entered the Army Nurse Corps in 1968. A year later, the 25-year-old from North Industry, Ohio, was working hard at the 312th Evacuation Hospital in Chu Lai, South Vietnam. Women were exempted from the draft. First Lieutenant Lane was a volunteer, and she was where she wanted to be, and that happened to be with wounded soldiers. This was not surprising to her mother, who once told a reporter that, as a child, she was always caring for someone or something. She always had a cat or dog or some animal that she was taking care of. As our nation observed Vietnam War Veterans Day on March 29th, there was no Wikipedia page for Lieutenant Lane. She did not have the medals of Audie Murphy or the fame of Sergeant Alvin York. Yet, she was just as much of a hero. Rocket and mortar attacks were common at her base in Chu Lai. In a letter home, she wrote of one attack, "We got all the patients under the beds that we could and put mattresses over the ones in traction. Very interesting place, but hardly anyone here is scared. It is just like part of the job." On June 8, 1969, First Lieutenant Sharon Lane made the ultimate sacrifice after a 122-millimeter rocket blasted through her ward, killing her and a 12-year-old Vietnamese girl. Sharon Lane was the only female nurse to be killed by enemy fire during the Vietnam War. The heroes that we remember today are not exclusive to any gender, race, or religion. They are a diverse group wedded to the common principle that America is a nation worth dying for. Not all of these heroes died because of enemy gunfire. Military service sometimes requires dangerous risk, even when its members are far from a combat zone. Certainly the 4 Marines who entered the CH-53E Super Stallion last month during a training exercise in Southern California did not expect it to be their final mission. Yet it was. On April 3, 2018, 4 young men, all in their 20s and 30s, died for the country as the result of a helicopter crash. The youngest, 24-year-old Lance Corporal Taylor Conrad of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, became a first-time father in October. The longest-serving Marine of the group, Gunnery Sergeant Richard Hawley, had completed 2 tours in Iraq. Captain Samuel Schultz previously deployed with the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit. His fellow pilot, First Lieutenant Samuel Phillips, was from Pinehurst, North Carolina, and joined the Marine Corps in August 2013. The hardest part of being a Marine is the tragic loss of life of a fellow brother in arms, said their commanding officer, Colonel Craig LaFleur. These warhorse Marines brought joy and laughter to so many around them. They each served honorably, wore the uniform proudly, and were a perfect example of what makes our Marine Corps great, its people. They will forever be in our hearts and minds. And they will forever be in our hearts and minds as well. Not just these Marines, but all soldiers, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardsmen, and Marines who have made the ultimate sacrifice for this nation. We also extend our gratitude and support for a group that nobody wants to join, but has already given their country so much, the Gold Star families. As we observe Memorial Day every year, these families remember their fallen loved ones every day. Children without parents, Gold Star mothers and fathers, spouses and siblings, they can still hear the voices of those that they lost. And it is up to us to hear the voices of these families, offer our support, and express our highest gratitude. Whether the people we remember served in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, the War on Terrorism, or any place or time in between, We say thank you for the freedom that you have given us. We are here because of you. God bless you all. God bless America. And God bless our fallen heroes.